The grand ballroom was filled with music and laughter, as Emily swirled a glass of champagne in her hand. The soft glow of the chandeliers bathed the room in a golden light, reflecting off her stunning red dress that hugged her curves perfectly. Her smile was dazzling, drawing the attention of many, including her colleague Andrew. "Emily, you look absolutely breathtaking." Tonight, Andrew said his eyes lingered on her, and he thanked her. Emily replied, "You don't look too bad yourself." Andrew was charming, confident, and everything Emily felt was missing from her marriage. Blake, her husband, stood across the room watching. His eyes followed Emily's every move. He felt heavy with suspicion and hurt. He had noticed subtle changes in her behavior, late nights, and the growing distance between them. The subtle changes in her behavior, the late nights, the secret phone calls, the growing distance between them. Blake took a sip of his drink, his gaze never leaving Emily. He saw her laughing at something Andrew said, her hand lightly touching Andrew's arm. The sight made his stomach churn. He had confronted Emily about her behavior before, but she had always brushed it off, insisting that he was being paranoid. As the night went on, Emily's flirtation with Andrew became more brazen. She leaned in closer to him, whispered in his ear, and laughed loudly at his jokes. Blake's grip tightened around his glass as he watched. "Do you want to dance?" Andrew asked, his voice low and smooth. "I'd love to," Emily replied, her eyes sparkling. As the night went on, Emily's flirtation with Andrew became more and more obvious. She leaned in closer to him, whispered in his ear, and laughed loudly at his jokes. Blake's grip tightened around his glass as he watched. Andrew asked, his voice low and smooth. "I'd love to," Emily replied, her eyes sparkling. They moved to the dance floor and Blake's heart was pounding in his chest. He couldn't take it anymore. He needed to confront her to put an end to this humiliation. He walked over to the dance floor, his face a mask of calm determination. "May I cut in?" Blake asked, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. Emily glanced at him dismissively. "Oh, Blake, can't you see I'm busy?" Blake ignored her words and turned to Andrew. "I think it's time you found someone else to dance with." Andrew raised his hands in mock surrender. "No problem, man, I'll leave you two to it." As Andrew walked away, Blake turned back to Emily. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Emily laughed, a harsh, mirthless sound. "Relax, Blake, it's just a dance." "It's not just a dance," Blake said, his voice low and controlled. "You've been flirting with him all night." Emily rolled her eyes. "You're being ridiculous." Blake's jaw clenched. "Am I? Do you think I haven't noticed the late nights, the secretive phone calls? Do you think I'm blind?" Emily sighed. Her patience was wearing thin. "Blake, I'm not your property. I don't need you watching. My every move, if you don't find out, no harm done." Blake stared at her, his heart breaking. "So that's it. You think you can do whatever you want as long as I don't find out?" Emily shrugged. "I'm just having fun. Blake, don't make it into something. It's not." Emily looked away, her expression unreadable. "Maybe we do." Blake turned and walked away, his mind racing with plans. He couldn't let this go on any longer. He needed to take control and protect himself from the pain she was causing. As he made his way through the crowd, he heard Emily's laughter echoing behind him. It was a cruel reminder of the betrayal that had shattered his world. Blake found a quiet corner and pulled out his phone. He looked through his contacts until he found the number he was looking for. He took a deep breath and dialed the number. "Hello," a voice answered. "It's Blake," he said. "I need your help," he continued. Emily felt a sense of triumph. She had pushed Blake away, asserting her independence and satisfying her need for excitement. She returned to Andrew, who was waiting with a drink in hand. "Everything okay?" Andrew asked. "Everything's fine," Emily replied. Her smile back in place. "Blake just needed a reality check," Andrew said, nodding. "I'm glad you're back. I've been waiting for you," Emily said, taking a sip of the champagne. She felt a rush of exhilaration and leaned in closer to Andrew. As the night went on, their conversation became more intimate. Meanwhile, Blake was in a quiet room discussing his plans with a friend he could trust. Blake's friend asked, "Are you sure about this?" His voice was filled with concern. "I have to do something." Blake replied, "I can't let her keep humiliating me like this." His friend nodded, understanding the pain in Blake's eyes. All right, what do you need me to do? Blake outlined his plan. Each step was carefully thought out. He would gather evidence, document everything, and confront Emily with the undeniable truth. He knew it would be difficult, but he couldn't see any other way. As the gala drew to a close, Emily felt a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. She had enjoyed her time with Andrew, relishing the attention and the thrill of something new. But as she returned home with Blake, a nagging feeling of guilt began to creep in. Blake drove in silence, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. Emily glanced at him, sensing the tension. "Blake, are you really that upset?" she asked. Her voice was softer now. Blake didn't respond immediately. He took a deep breath, trying to keep his emotions in check. "Emily, we need to talk, but not tonight." Blake realized that he couldn't ignore the signs any longer. The late nights, the flirtations, Emily's words had cut deep, but they had also given him the resolve he needed. Tomorrow, he would confront her with the truth, and their lives would change forever. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow into the bedroom, where Emily woke with a pounding headache. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment she lay still, trying to make sense of the events of the previous night. Memories came rushing back like a flood. She reached out, expecting to find Blake beside her, but his side of the bed was cold and empty. Confused, Emily sat up, rubbing her temples to ease the headache. She stumbled into the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face to clear her mind. As she looked around the bedroom, her eyes fell on a suitcase. She'd left it neatly on the floor. Her heart skipped a beat as she approached it, looking around carefully. There on the bed beside the suitcase lay a note written in Blake's unmistakable handwriting. "Emily, you have until midnight to leave town." The words hit Emily like a physical blow. She was filled with panic as she read them again, trying to comprehend their meaning. What had happened last night? What had she done to deserve this ultimatum? She rushed out of the bedroom. Emily's bare feet padded softly on the carpeted floor. The living room was quiet, save for the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall. Her eyes scanned the room frantically, searching for any sign of Blake. He was nowhere to be found. Instead, Emily's gaze fell upon Andrew, her colleague from the gala, lying unconscious on the couch. A half-empty bottle of Blake's finest whiskey stood on the coffee table beside him. Its contents were a testament to the night's events. To the night's events, Andrew and Emily cried out, shaking him gently. "Wake up." Andrew groaned and stirred. His eyes fluttered open slowly, and he blinked, trying to orient himself in the unfamiliar surroundings. "Emily, where am I?" Emily's voice trembled. "Andrew, what happened last night? Do you remember anything?" "Andrew, I remember the gala, and then I think I drank too much." "How did I get here?" Andrew's mind was racing, trying to piece together the fragments of memory. "Blake must have brought you here." Andrew looked around, confusion etched on his face. "Where is Blake? Is he okay?" "I don't know," Emily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hugh's gone, and he left this note for me." Andrew frowned, his expression clouded with concern. "What does it say?" Emily handed him the note, her hands trembling. Andrew read it silently, his brow furrowing deeper with each passing second. "It's almost midnight. I should leave town." "What does he mean by this?" "I don't know," Emily repeated, her voice thick with panic. "I thought everything was fine. I didn't think he'd react like this." Andrew sighed, placing the note back on the bed. "Emily, maybe you should call him. Talk to him. Figure this out." Emily nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. She reached for her phone on the coffee table, but her heart sank when she saw the screen was dark. "My phone he's dead. Let me help," Andrew offered, handing her a charger from the nearby drawer. Emily plugged in her phone, watching as the screen lit up with a faint glow. She dialed Blake's number, holding her breath as the phone rang. There was no answer, just the sound of the ringing echoing in her ears. Unanswered questions hung in the air. "Hoon, not picking up," Emily said, her voice trembling. "What do I do now?" Andrew hesitated, unsure of what to do. "Maybe you should leave town for a while to give him some space to cool off." Emily shook her head. "I can't just leave like this. I need to talk to him to explain." Andrew sighed. "He's hurt and angry. Maybe it's best if you give him some time, Andrew, I know you love him, but you have to give him space to process everything. Rushing might make things worse. Emily, I'm sorry, Andrew, but I don't know what else to do. Andrew gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze. I wish I had all the answers, Emily, but right now you need to take care of yourself. Figure out what you want and how you're going to fix this. Emily wiped away her tears, her resolve hardening. You're right. I have to talk to him to make him understand. Andrew nodded. I'll stay here with you if you need me, whatever you decide to do. Emily nodded gratefully, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the turmoil. She knew she had to face Blake and confront the consequences of her actions, whether he would forgive her or not. She had to try. Emily picked up her phone again and dialed Blake's number once more, praying this time he would answer. The clock on the wall ticked relentlessly as Emily paced back and forth in the empty living room. Hours had passed since she found Blake's ultimatum, and with each passing minute her anxiety deepened. A message on her phone from an unknown number made her realize how serious the situation was. If she didn't leave by midnight, there'd be consequences. Blake had everything documented. Emily was in tears as she read the message again. She collapsed onto the couch, overwhelmed by everything that was going on. Of her decisions, and the pain of losing Blake. How had it come to this? She had never imagined their marriage could unravel so quickly, so completely. A soft groan interrupted her thoughts, and Emily looked up to see Andrew stirring on the couch. He rubbed his eyes and sat up slowly, blinking in confusion as he tried to piece together what had happened. Emily and Andrew were both asleep, so she didn't know what had happened during the night. She was confused about why she was there. She swallowed hard and her voice trembled as she tried to make sense of the situation. Blake had found out about them and had kicked her out. Andrew's eyes widened in shock. He'd kicked her out, but why? She thought everything was fine between them. You too, Emily said, shaking her head and trembling. It's not fine, Andrew. He saw us at the gala and he couldn't take it anymore. He left me this note telling me to leave town by midnight. Andrew ran a hand through his hair, his expression filled with concern. Midnight. That's barely a few hours away. What are you going to do, Emily? She wiped away her tears, her mind racing with fear and uncertainty. I don't know, Andrew. I have nowhere to go, no one to turn to. I'm alone. Andrew reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. You're not alone, Emily. I'm here for you. We'll figure this out together. Emily nodded. Emily was grateful for Andrew's support amidst the chaos. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation hanging heavy in the air. Emily knew she had to make a decision soon. She couldn't stay there, not with Blake's threat looming over her. I have to leave, she said finally. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I have to find somewhere safe to go. Andrew nodded, his expression serious. Do you have everything you need? Money? Clothes? Emily shook her head. I packed a few things, but it's not much. I don't have much money either. We'll figure it out, Andrew assured her, his voice steady. Start by finding you a place to stay tonight, somewhere safe where Blake won't find you. Emily nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the despair. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. I don't know what I would do without you. They spent the next hour making arrangements. Andrew helped Emily find a small hotel nearby where she could stay temporarily. He offered to cover the cost, insisting that she needed a safe place to gather her thoughts and make a plan. As they gathered her few belongings and headed towards the door, Emily paused, her gaze lingering on. The empty house she once called home made her realize how much she'd lost. I'll come back for the rest of my things later, she said quietly, her voice breaking. Andrew squeezed her hand. Take your time, he said. We'll take it one step at a time. They left the house together. Andrew drove Emily to the hotel. They didn't speak on the way there. As they drove, Emily was lost in her thoughts. She felt a mix of emotions, grief for the life she had lost, fear for an uncertain future, and guilt for the pain she had caused Blake. When they arrived at the hotel, Andrew helped Emily check in and settle into her room. She thanked him again, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you, Andrew, for everything. Andrew smiled warmly. You're welcome, Emily. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll start figuring out what comes next. The overwhelming feeling overwhelmed her. She buried her face in her hand, the weight of her decisions crushing her spirit. Emily lay there, the reality of her homelessness sinking in. She had lost everything: her marriage, her home, her sense of security. Now she faced a future filled with uncertainty and regret. But amidst the darkness, she felt a glimmer of resolve. She couldn't undo what had happened, but she could build a new future. She had to find a way to make things right and start over. With a deep breath, Emily wiped away her tears and sat up. She took out her phone and began to make a list. She made a list of things she needed to do, people she could reach out to, and plans she could make. She didn't know where this journey would lead, but one thing was certain: she couldn't give up. Not now, not ever. Months passed since Emily left, and Blake had focused all his energy on rebuilding his life. The divorce was finalized. Blake felt a strange sense of relief once the legal process was over. He'd made his decision, and now he could move forward. He threw himself into his work with renewed vigor, putting in long hours to keep his mind off things. He was busy and didn't dwell on the past. His colleagues noticed the change in him. He was more focused and driven than ever before. Outside of work, Blake sought solace in his hobbies. He spent weekends hiking in the mountains, finding peace in the quiet solitude of nature. He also rediscovered his love for photography. Capturing the landscapes were breathtaking, mirroring the newfound clarity in his own life. But amidst the busyness of work and hobbies, there was a void, a lingering ache in his heart that refused to fade. He missed the companionship and warmth of a loving partner by his side. He missed having someone to share his thoughts with. One evening, at the insistence of a close friend, Blake reluctantly signed up for a dating site. He browsed through profiles with a mix of hesitation and curiosity. Unsure of what he was looking for but willing to explore the possibility of new beginnings. That's when he stumbled upon Sarah's profile. Blake saw a radiant smile and eyes full of kindness that seemed to reach through the screen and touch his soul. He was intrigued, so he sent her a message, not expecting much but hoping for a chance to connect with someone who could understand his journey. He was surprised when she responded almost immediately. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. As if they'd known each other for years, not minutes, they discovered shared interests, similar values and a deep appreciation for life's simple joys. They agreed to meet for coffee, a casual outing that turned into hours of laughter and conversation. Blake found himself drawn to Sarah's warmth, her genuine nature, and the way she made him feel at ease. This was a stark contrast to the tension and uncertainty that had plagued his marriage to Emily. As weeks turned into months, Blake and Sarah's relationship blossomed. They explored new restaurants, took weekend trips to nearby towns, and shared quiet moments under the stars. Blake was initially cautious, reluctant to let himself hope for a happy future after the pain of his past. However, Sarah was patient and understanding, giving him the space he needed to heal, while gently reminding him of the joy that life could offer. She listened to his stories and comforted him despite moments of doubt, he had the support of Sarah as he worked through the complexities of moving on. One sunny afternoon, while walking hand in hand through a vibrant city park, he realized he had found something he had thought lost forever: peace. He looked at Sarah, her laughter echoing through the air, and knew in his heart that she was the one he wanted to build a future with. They talked about traveling the world, starting a family, and creating a home filled with love and laughter. Sarah's eyes sparkled with excitement, mirroring the hope and joy that Blake felt swelling within him. Months turned into years, and Blake proposed to Sarah on a beach at sunset. It was a moment of perfect clarity and overwhelming love. She said yes without hesitation, her eyes shimmering with tears of happiness as they embraced, knowing that their journey together was just beginning. They got married surrounded by friends and family in a ceremony filled with laughter, tears, and promises of forever. Blake stood at the altar, gazing into Sarah's eyes, feeling a sense of completeness he'd never known before. They built a life together, a home filled with love, laughter, and the pitter-patter of tiny feet. Sarah gave birth to their first child, a son with Blake's eyes and Sarah's. They welcomed 2 more children, a daughter with a passion for art and a second son with a knack for making everyone laugh. Blake found joy in fatherhood, and he loved watching his children grow and thrive. He was also present for every milestone and every bedtime story. Sarah brought light and warmth into their home. Her love grounded him during moments of doubt and uncertainty. Years passed, and Blake's life transformed in ways he had never imagined possible. He found peace and happiness, and he felt a sense of belonging that filled the void left by Emily's departure. He had learned to forgive not just Emily but also himself for the mistakes of one sunny afternoon. While on a family trip to a busy city, Blake saw a familiar figure sitting alone on a park bench. It was Emily, the woman who had once been his wife. Sarah noticed the change in Blake's demeanor and followed his gaze to the woman on the bench. Blake's demeanor changed and he followed his gaze to the woman on the bench. She squeezed his hand gently, sensing the mix of emotions swirling within him. Sarah's voice was soft and filled with concern. Blake took a deep breath and his gaze never left Emily's figure in the distance. Memories flooded his mind: pain, betrayal, the journey that had led him to this moment of peace and contentment. He turned to Sarah, his eyes reflecting a lifetime of gratitude and love. "I have everything I need right here," he said quietly, his voice steady with conviction. Sarah smiled, understanding shining in her eyes as she nodded in silent agreement. They reached an understanding and continued walking. Their children were ahead of them, a testament to the new beginnings they had forged together. As they walked away, Blake cast one last glance over his shoulder at Emily, a woman he had loved and lost, whose presence had once filled his days with turmoil and heartache. But now, as he embraced Sarah and their children, Blake knew that he had found his way back to happiness. His happiness was built on forgiveness, love, and the promise of a future filled with endless possibilities. The sun was low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the bustling city streets as Blake and his family drove through some unfamiliar neighborhoods. They were on a road trip, exploring new places and creating some great memories together in the back seat. Their kids were chatting and giggling excitedly, filling the car with joy and innocence as they approached a busy intersection. Blake was really focused on the road, though. Blake's attention was drawn to a figure sitting on the curb. She had disheveled hair and worn clothes, a weathered face. His heart skipped a beat as he recognized her. It was Emily, his former wife. She looked up briefly, their eyes meeting for a fleeting moment before she dropped her gaze. She looked away as if she couldn't bear to meet his gaze. Her shoulders slumped with defeat. Blake's wife, Sarah, noticed his sudden change in demeanor and followed his gaze to the woman on the curb. She looked concerned as she asked softly, "Do you know her?" Blake hesitated. He was flooded with memories of their tumultuous past, the betrayal, the pain, the anguish of losing the woman he had loved. He took a deep breath and answered in a quiet voice, "Yes, I did." Sarah placed a comforting hand on his arm, grounding him in the present. "What happened, she said. She asked gently, sensing the weight of the unspoken history between them. Blake glanced at his children in the rearview mirror, their laughter ringing through the car. He thought of the life they had built together, the love, the laughter, and the moments that had healed his wounded heart. "It's a long story," he told her. Blake began slowly, his voice tinged with sadness and regret. "Emily and I were married once, but it didn't work out." Sarah nodded, understandingly, her gaze softening with compassion. She knew that Blake carried scars from his past, wounds that had shaped the man he had become. "Did you know that she was?" Sarah's voice trailed off, unable to find the right words. Blake shook his head, his eyes never leaving Emily's figure on the curb. "No, I had no idea," he said, and there was silence between them as they watched Emily from a distance, each lost in their own thoughts. The light turned green, and Blake reluctantly pulled away from at the intersection. They parted ways, leaving Emily in the rearview mirror. They continued on their way through the city, but Emily's presence lingered in Blake's mind. He found himself reflecting on their tumultuous past, the arguments, the broken promises, and the shattered dreams. He had once loved Emily with a passion that had consumed him, but in the end, their love had fallen apart because of betrayal and heartache. As the day ended and the city lights came on, Blake thought about the life he had now, with Sarah by his side, their children laughing in the back seat. They stopped at a nice little diner for dinner. It was a warm atmosphere, and they enjoyed burgers and fries together. Sarah tentatively brought up the topic that had been on both their minds. "Are you okay, Blake?" she asked gently, her concern evident. Blake exhaled, stirring his coffee absently. I didn't expect to see her like that. It's been years since Sarah reached across the table and squeezed. His hand reassured her that it was okay to feel unsettled. Blake was seeing someone from his past, especially under those circumstances. He murmured, I know. His gaze was distant. He thought he had moved on and made peace with everything, but seeing her like that brought back memories and feelings he thought he had buried. Sarah, she nodded, her expression sympathetic. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just know that I'm here for you, no matter what. Blake managed a faint smile. He was grateful for Sarah's unwavering support. Thank you, Sarah, he said, for understanding. As they drove back to the hotel, thoughts outside the city were buzzing with life. The night sky was a tapestry of twinkling stars. Blake stole glances at the sleeping children in the back seat. They seemed so innocent, a stark contrast to the complexities of adult life. He thought of Emily again, wondering what had led her down the path. She was now walking, but amidst the questions and uncertainties, one thing remained clear. His heart belonged to Sarah and their children. They were his present, his future, the light that had guided him through the darkness of his past. As they settled into their hotel room for the night, Blake held Sarah close, finding they slept soundly, their bodies entwined. Breathing in unison, their hearts beating in rhythm with love and forgiveness. Outside the city, the night was still and peaceful, unaware of the reunion that had stirred long-buried emotions and memories. For Blake, it was a reminder of how far he had come, the second chances and new beginnings that had shaped his journey. As night gave way to day, he closed his eyes, embracing the peace that Sarah had brought into his life. A peace that he had once thought impossible to find. The light turned green, casting a verdant glow over the intersection as Blake drove away. He left Emily on the curb, feeling a mix of emotions, pity for her situation, relief that he'd moved on, and, above all, a sense of closure. He knew in that moment that he'd made the right choice for his future and for his family. Blake squeezed Sarah's hand gently, grateful for her unwavering presence beside him, her touch grounding him and reminding him of the strength and stability he had found in their relationship. Glancing in the rearview mirror at their children in the back seat, he felt a surge of love and protectiveness. They were asleep. Sarah murmured, her voice soft with tenderness. Yeah, Blake replied, his voice tinged with relief. Thankfully, they didn't notice. Sarah nodded, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. It's probably for the best they don't need to know about Emily. Blake swallowed hard, his throat tight with unspoken emotions. No, they don't. Silence settled between them, the hum of the engine. As they drove through the unfamiliar streets, Blake thought about the chance encounter with Emily. It had stirred up memories and emotions he'd buried long ago. He'd thought he'd moved on, but Sarah turned to him, her eyes filled with understanding. It's okay to feel shaken, she said. Blake, seeing someone from your past, especially under those circumstances, replied that it just brought back memories. He'd thought he'd put them to rest. Sarah reached out her fingers. Blake felt Sarah's hand brushing against his cheek in a gesture of comfort. You've come a long way, Blake. We both have, she said. Blake nodded, grateful for Sarah's reassuring presence. I know, and I'm thankful for everything we have, he replied. They drove in silence for a while longer, the city lights casting a warm glow over the nighttime streets. Blake was thinking about moments from his past with Emily. They had been together for a long time and had a lot of happy memories. But things had slowly started to go wrong in their marriage. Blake realized that she had been unfaithful to him. He said, I loved her once. Sarah listened quietly. She felt sad for him. For the pain he had endured, she replied gently, but love isn't always enough. Blake nodded, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. Yeah, sometimes it's not. They arrived at their hotel, the familiar sight offering a sense of comfort amidst the emotional turmoil. Blake parked the car and turned off the engine. Hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, Blake admitted, Seeing Emily today made me realize how far I've come. Sarah reached over and found his hand again. You've grown stronger, Blake, and you've built a beautiful life for us. Blake smiled faintly, his heart swelling with gratitude for Sarah's unwavering support. They stepped out of the car and walked hand in hand. They went back to their hotel room. Inside it was quiet and still, a sanctuary from the outside world. Blake closed the door behind them, exhaling slowly as he leaned against it. Sarah wrapped her arms around him, holding him close. "You're okay, Blake," she whispered. "I know you are." He nodded, his arms encircling her in a tight embrace. "We're okay," he murmured. They stood together in the silence, finding comfort in each other's presence. The weight of the past seemed lighter now, overshadowed by the love and understanding they shared. As they settled into bed that night, Blake held Sarah close, feeling a deep sense of peace settle over him. He knew that Emily's unexpected appearance had stirred memories and emotions, but it had also reaffirmed the choices he had made and the path he had taken. To find healing and happiness outside the city, they slept peacefully, unaware of the quiet resolution that had unfolded in the lives of Blake and Sarah. For them, the encounter with Emily had brought closure, marking the end of a chapter in a story of love, loss, and resilience. As Blake closed his eyes, he felt grateful for the life they had built together, a life filled with love, laughter, and the promise of tomorrow.